Hello and welcome, Adam Thomas from Balancing Touch Reflexology. So good to see you and thanks for joining me today. Today I have a really great question that I'm going to try and answer about the origins of reflexology. So the question is, I was wondering if you could help me answer the following question. I am a beginner in reflexology but have an unclear understanding about the origin of reflexology. Specifically, I want to know where it comes from and if it's based on religion, and if it is about energy transfer. I want to know if the origins come from Far East philosophy of vital energy, energy centers in our body, and the chi factor. Is it about energy transfer? So actually, there's a lot in this question. The first one being the origins of reflexology. So if we look into the origins of reflexology, there's going to be kind of two components to it. There's going to be like an ancient civilization question, and then there's going to be a modern reflexology question. So if we look at the ancient side of things, pretty much any ancient civilization you look at, Egypt, India, China, even North America, there's going to be some evidence and documentation of how the feet are important. And also, there's healing qualities by working through the hands or the feet. In ancient Egypt, in a tomb of a physician, actually, it was important enough that they commissioned somebody to have these, lifetime by etching them into stone, right? And so there's a picture of, if you've taken any type of reflexology training, there's the picture, the physician working on the feet and the physician working on the hands, showing the importance of that, right? When I was in Thailand, a lying down Buddha, there's a whole bunch of auspicious markings on the bottom of the feet. They're probably more related to Buddhist philosophies and things like that. But again, the importance of the feet, when you're in India, the touching the guru's feet, Jesus washing the feet. When you look back into ancient cultures, you will find evidence of working on the feet. Is that reflexology that we're being taught and working with clients today? No. That's ancient sort of systems that the line of, the transmission, I should say, of those teachings has not happened to modern reflexology, right? So maybe that they were doing reflexology back then, we don't know. The only thing that we know is that there's evidence that the feet are important and possibly have a vehicle to heal the body through. Modern reflexology, the word reflexology, actually comes from back in the early 20th century. It comes from an ear, nose, and throat specialist named Dr. Williams Fitzgerald. And he either discovered or rediscovered these things called zones in our body, right? And so we have these zones, you've probably seen it in before, but there's a picture of some zones there. And what it is there's 5 zones on your right side and 5 zones on your left. So a total of 10 zones that run up and down your body. So before reflexology, it was called zone therapy. And he found out that there's a numbing effect that can happen by using this. So when he was doing his surgical procedures, he found that there could be a more of a numbing, sort of like painkiller sort of effect, rather than using harmful chemicals to create the same thing. This is what kind of started to make the origins of the modern reflexology kind of important, because there was a doctor who was finding out that he can do some of his surgical procedures without pain, with naturally using a numbing effect on the body. What it was based on was these zones, right, that run up and down. And so really simply put, if he was to work, say, on the ear, the outer ear, to numb that out so he could work on it, he would put little like pins or rubber bands to create pressure in this zone. So the zones are sliced down the middle here, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you take sections, equal sections as best as you can, and that's how it works that way. And it runs all the way down to your feet, which you get zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the zones happen between the webbing there, right? So you get 5 that side, and then when it runs up here, between the webbing as well. So you have 5 there. So when you're working, zone 1 is more in the middle, zone 5 is out here. So if I put my hand like that, that's how it lines up to the face. So what he was finding, and what he started to work with, is by numbing out or putting stimulation over long periods of time in a certain area on the finger here or on the little toe, which is zone 5, he could get a numbing effect and work here, right? And then a bunch of people got excited about it, and Dr. Riley and a whole bunch of people had started to be like, wow, this is kind of cool, right? We don't have to use these harmful chemicals, or there's another way to do this that's more natural, right? And so that filtered down into a bunch of different people. But the word reflexology comes from this lady here. Let's see, Eunice Ingham here. She is the mother of modern reflexology. So when you see the word reflexology, she's the one that coined it. And so there was a bunch of different maps that started to evolve from the basics of the zones, right? And she came up with a map that put it on the feet. And her perspective was a lot different. It wasn't about a numbing effect, because she found that when there was overstimulation on certain areas, it created kind of an adverse effect, right? Her whole focus was like, wow, we can create a nice relaxation effect by working on the feet and having it relate to different parts of the body, right? So there's by working on the feet, you work up the zones. And she also found that the feet to be more effective than the hands and stuff. So her focus became creating a teachable method for kind of anybody, right? So that we could help each other out and bring stress levels down, because when that's down, the healing process of the body can take over and stuff like that. So anyway, when we hear the word reflexology, it's coming from her. So the origins of reflexology is a little bit of a question mark still, right? So we don't know if Dr. Williams Fitzgerald was, tapping into some ancient healing techniques and stuff like that. It doesn't seem to be related to things like acupuncture or kind of along those lines. That's where reflexology has come from. It's more of a modern take on it. And yes, we can go back and look at ancient cultures, but we can't say that they were practicing the reflexology that we are practicing today, right? If you're really curious about and are into studying history, I would highly recommend this book here, okay? So, Reflexology, Art, Science, and History by Christine Issel there, okay? This one is awesome. Goes deep into the topic of the history of it, right? So then the next part of the question is it based on religion? So reflexology is not based on any religion. It doesn't actually contain any religious elements. However, the practice may incorporate philosophical elements that are sometimes associated with spiritual or holistic beliefs, right? Reflexology often practices within the broader context of holistic health, which views the body and its healing process as interconnected with mind and spirit. So reflexology does not come from a religion. And then the last part of the question here is it about energy transfer? So I'm not really sure what you mean by energy transfer, but if we talk about energy and Eastern philosophies, the concept of energy transfer in reflexology is somewhat similar to the ideas found in some Eastern philosophies, which discuss the flow of life force or vital energy, often termed chi or ki in China or Japan, or prana in Indian cultures. The tradition holds that the proper flow of this energy is essential to health and well-being, and various practices, including acupuncture, yoga, aim to balance this energy, right? Reflexology is sometimes explained by practitioners in terms of improving the energy flow through the body by releasing blockages in the energy pathways, which are conceptually similar to meridians in Chinese medicine. Yeah, we're not working on the meridians here. This is a difficult one to kind of answer, because yes, we are working with the life energy, if you wanted to say it that way, right? But it's not, like I mentioned before, it's not Chinese meridians, right? It can be related to the zones and then the map of the foot. So when we, as reflexologists, when we find any type of tender spot or painful spot, we try and work that out to lessen the pain. And as reflexologists, what we found is the rest of the body follows suit, right? So we don't know how it works. We just know that it does work, right? There hasn't been any scientific explanation as to this point here connects to that point there. The same with in Chinese acupuncture. There's still no, this equals that findings, right? But there are evidence that it does help, lower blood pressure. There's been studies on that. There's been lots of studies on reflexology that it does work. But again, the mechanism of how it does work is still something that we don't understand. And so we say that we're working the energy, or there's blockages in the body. We find the blockages here. We try and relax and loosen them here. And we find that it helps out up here, right? And then there's different areas in reflexology where people put on certain things like the chakras onto the feet, and they find more meaning and the way of working that through the feet as well. But true or original reflexology or modern reflexology by Eunice Ingham was very simple. Find areas that are tender and work them out, right? That's what it's based on. It's not based on chakras or energy centers in the body and things like that. Having all those kind of 3 points, and hopefully that answered your question, but reflexology shares some conceptual similarities with practices from the East, right? Philosophies mostly regarding energy pathways, right? And the balance of life energy. So it's kind of similar. It's not explicitly based on tradition, nor is it tied to any religious practices. Instead, it is involved as a unique therapy with its roots in both Western and Eastern practices, focused on the idea that specific points on the extremities are connected energetically, I guess. Well, only other way, because there's no cord that's attached there, to other body parts and systems. And the manipulating of these points can contribute to health and wellness. And I see that in my practice all the time. By working on the feet, it helps relax the body, the person feels better. So that's what keeps me going in this whole world of reflexology. I still don't know how it works. There's lots of theories, but when I go into a session and I work on somebody who's really stressed out and they leave my session room feeling lighter and happier, with less stress, if there is a point here that connects to there and that was what did it, cool. But I can just see that in my practice the before and after is so much different, right? So hopefully that answers your question. Reflexology is still developing itself. It's a practice, so we find new things to play with, new philosophies, new ways of looking at reflexology, which is really exciting. So it's always kind of evolving and adding things in and throwing things out and all that. So it's really the art of reflexology, right? But if you're really into the history and where it's come from and sort of the development of it, this book is a must. Go pick it up. So until next time, remember to keep those feet happy. See you later. If you're interested in learning more about reflexology, you can subscribe to the channel below. It's also very helpful to hit that like button, and feel free to share it with anybody who you think might be interested in it. You can find my online courses, Reflexology Charts, and other reflexology goodies over on my website, which is balancingtouch.ca. Thank you so much for watching today, and if you have some more time, you can check out some other videos. Till next time, this is Adam Thomas from balancingtouch.ca. See you later.